Hey, it's Matt with St. Bonaventure University Cyber 501, Week 7, Lab 7.1, using the Veil framework to bypass antivirus with a malicious binary. And we're going to also try to obfuscate it within something that looks an awful lot like a JPEG. Let's get into Veil by, I've already installed Veil from here, github.com, Veil framework. And Veil is up and running by typing Veil the command line. Then we have some options here. We're going to use option 1, evasion. We're going to list our possible evasion techniques here. And I've already done a couple. So for this one, I'm just going to do 26, which is Meterpreter reverse HTTP. You have some options that you can set. You want to make sure definitely to set the set L host to your IP address, and you can set the port, and there's some other options that you can set which you may consider setting, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to hit generate on this guy, and it's going to ask us for a file name, reverse HTTP, and we're going to use the Pi installer. It's going to take a second to build out the compiled executable and a handler for Metasploit framework to launch the listener for the reverse shell there. There's building right now. And while this is building, I'll tell you why you might want to set some of the other options. Veil is a couple of years old now. It hasn't been updated. A lot of these methods are now fingerprinted through VirusTotal and other antivirus, and your antivirus will eat these if you don't do something to make them look different, including editing the actual raw source that's generated. And as you can see here, our module, our executable has been written to reverse http.exe. Our source code here, which if we want to make this more invisible to antivirus, that's what you really need to do, is you need to get in there and you need to rework that. Otherwise, it's going to be fingerprinted. And our resource file. The resource file is, the bread and butter of this thing. It allows you to launch your Metasploit console. So that's what we've done. I've already set up the ordinance for this. And I'm going to get out of here and go back to cd/var/lib veil output. Looking at our output, we have the compiled folder, and that's where our executable is. Now, I just created this one, but for this lab, we're using something I created earlier, the Meterpreter reverse TCP, which I've copied over to Windows. As you can see here, I've also been working with the AES encrypted one just for fun, but this is the one we're using with WinRAR. I've taken that there and hackerkitty.jpg, and we've created an archive using the SFX self-extracting executable format, and we've given an icon for hackerkitty.jpg. So it's going to look a little bit like that. By the way, I turned Defender off, otherwise Defender will eat these files. They just don't bypass Defender updated anymore. So I've got Windows XP running in the background, where I've taken my hackerkitty.jpg.exe, created WinRAR. We've dropped it in here. Notice I do have antivirus running, Avast free, which you can get on your Windows XP virtual machine. So Avast is running, and we've got that on there. But before I open this, we're going to want to go back into our handlers, and we're going to run msf console -r, and we're going to want the Pi Meterpreter reverse TCP RC. Boom. Hit that, and it's going to launch the Metasploit framework console. and with all the data it needs to listen for a session to be created from a victim. So it's just booting up Metasploit. We're at 5 minutes, so we'll just get this wrapped up in a second. I think I've covered all the bases. We built our binary. We've made it look like a JPEG. It's actually a self-extracting archive. And there we have our reverse TCP handler. It's now listening here on Kali on this IP import. Now for the big show. Let's look at this hackerkitty.jpg. There it is, erasing your hard drive. And guess what? He is, because we've got a handler, a session opened. If I type in sessions, we can see that I have a session, sessions-i1. Let's connect to that session, do something like sysinfo. I just pulled info, that is my Windows XP box. We have the ability now to own this box in any way we see fit. And there you go. That is Veil Framework, getting past a slightly older version of Avast on Windows XP. Like I said, if you're going to be doing this, Defender was eating pretty much every attempt I did, even editing some source code. I could not get it by Defender on my Windows 10 machine. So tool's a little out of date in that regard, but as you can see, based on what you're attacking and your victim might be pretty cool, and I'm sure if I spent more time with it, I could probably get by Defender as well. And that's it. Thanks.